Hello, everyone, and welcome to another The World of Sasquatch. Today's show is being recorded on 9/8/24. This is going to be a not necessarily a mixed bag, but we had a focus for this, but there's going to be some additions to this as well as we go on. Before I mention anything, though, we need to have the circle open within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one. And when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now with no conflicting agenda to please come in and be with us now. We ask for the benevolent forest people, again, with no conflicting agenda to come in and be with us now. And friends and past loved ones and anyone who wishes to listen to this conversation to be here in peace, in reverence for the information and understanding and allowing for this conversation to be had. We ask for uh, any malicious or any mischievous beings to be escorted us out right now so that this conversation could be had in peace. And with that, and with all the blessings we send your way, we say, so be it.
So be it. Includes ghosts too. And that will become the context for that will become clear, here in a moment. But that seems to be the last like unsolvable Rubik's cube I've run into personally. But with empathic transference, so they transfer all their crap on you and everything. But the original reason for this show is my mother and Laverne have been watching these Bigfoot shows, and I'm not going to name any of the specific titles. Just there's a slew of them out there, a whole range of them. There's two main ones, and then there are a bunch of other new ones. Now, I can't be judge, jury, executioner, and almighty vetter when it comes to these things, but at the same time, if they're involving the benevolent forest people, they are the vetters of their own image and their own materials, like you heard in the previous episode of the World of Sasquatch about the passing of the torch one. They feel they are in charge of their image, regardless of who uh, is using it and who carved what or who made what. In this follows the same thread, but in a different area, in a different medium. This is TV shows, and who are these Bigfoot Sasquatch shows truly speaking to? And I find this fascinating because they were watching something where these people were in contact with forest people. If I give too many details, you're gonna know what show it is. So, but I will give a generalization. Whereas they had a team looking for them. This was true of both these main shows, where they were they said they were in contact with them, and they also had a Native American tribe that was talking about a legend where one accidentally killed a native that was singing all this other stuff. So and this was part of the legend where that's why the forest people wouldn't interact with natives anymore. And I was told immediately, no. So when I heard this, and my mother heard tapping on the window, we've heard rocks thrown out the window, which means they want to communicate about this subject. She thought they were validating something, which yeah, you can say that, but more of a grievance or bitter grievance about this subject, which I fully agree where they're taking this. This is how can I put this? Uh, there was this dream that popped up for this last night where I saw a forest person watching a film crew somewhere. And I saw the people with the big cameras, all this going around the forest, following a person around talking about the forest people. And I saw this one forest person in the background going like this, really pissed. Like, like, how dare you say that about us, kind of thing. Um, this is actually quite interesting. That was also something I was also going to say that was also wiped from my head a moment ago. Maybe they don't want that one talked about at the moment. If it's brought up in channel, so be it. But uh, This like, who are these shows truly speaking to? What are they bringing through, if at all, if they're actually doing anything? That is the question. And also the other one is who is truly unawakened or awakened in this, a seer or a skeptic? That's been the eternal chicken and the egg argument, or unless they're both just in their lanes, kind of thing. This is kind of how these shows operate. Yeah,
Well, and we know for a fact that, most all of the shows out there have to abate by a certain yield. And so, to say that the shows that are being seen right now are what they actually appear to be completely, they're not right at this time.
yeah.
And so what is the agenda? What is the agenda that's trying to be run through the show? Now, again, we always say that there is always truth, there's always truth within this, or it wouldn't be out there, because people can discern something feels right about some of this. And then what happens is they take that something feels right feeling and then will try to bastardize it
One
to
thing could be wrong,
basically,
one thing could be correct.
right. And but they're running, a particular story or a particular viewpoint of something, or image. And I just don't mean physical image, I mean image, so that like a lot of races that, biases are created. So I can certainly see, folks trying to massage information to go ahead and trying to get the public to have certain biases or thoughts about something, rather than what really may be. I think the forest people have been very honest to say that, just like you would say with humanity, that the descendants of those that came first, have gotten to all kinds of different levels. Some that are telepathic still, some that aren't, some that have de-evolved, let's just say, quite a bit.
Mhm.
When we talk about humans, we talk about from the fall to the lifting, where, we're actually great beings now covered with mud. I think it's kind of like the same thing in a sense, where you have certain tribes that are more advanced than others. And I use the word tribes, because that's really kind of what they use. But you have to think of it about, on our planet with human beings, you have different levels of culture all over the place. And there seems to be some of that, going on. So it's an interesting thing, because I personally just get concerned that they've picked their particular, let's call it, model of all of these different Sasquatch, that they're going to try to focus. This is who they are, like try to define it all as one, instead of being the multitude and the different facets that they are. And so it'll be really interesting conversation to see from their perspective what
Mhm.
they think of all of this.
Yes, yeah, and some of these, no, with these shows like you have some that for the ghost on the ghost side that have gone really Hollywoody, while other ones have gone more into both the spiritualism and the science, which is where it belongs. But with this, I believe it's fallen into that same snare, um, and with the yield snare as well. So you don't. It's really kind of a complicated subject, and also the awakened unawakened argument as well that's currently going on. You have that chicken and the egg thing going on, and with involving these shows. Uh, so, all right, let me see here. I believe this is actually Seymour that's wanting to talk. Um, hmm, yes, Isaac, he's the other red man. Yes. Oh, no, you didn't say who he's the other red man. He said you said he's the other red meat. That was your word. Okay. Uh, okay, you're flipping him off. Okay. That was actually stupid. So yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Let's see. Yes, and for the channelings for them, I use these feet. So these are excellent for the channel purposes with the forest people specifically. So I can just hold it. All right. Seymour. Yes, and now I can put it down. Forgive the abruptness. This time of year brings what you would call the proverbial sea of ghosts about. We can get into that in a little bit. This is an interesting subject. The dream he was being shown was set in your upper northwest, where some film crews, this was an actual scene, where some film crews were filming uh, a particular show. And they said they were communicating at a time they were actually not. And this happens, unfortunately, more times than not. They will show, there are groups out there trying to show the progression. And this is where they have our support. They're showing the progression of information. There are times where they have sometimes have captured us, other times they have not. And they are going, how would you say, Hollywoody in that way, or yield, where there are mistruths said about our people. Some of the younger crowd, very much like the one he saw in in that particular dream sequence or information, a download or stream, as it were. Some of them have far less patience with this process. Can't say as I blame them, but I'm frustrated as hell too. But some of them also have been known to assault camera crews, and we discourage that because that puts us in a bad light. They're really basically what they're doing is speaking for people, not just an individual. In this instance, the communication there. And yes, and you have your skunk apes, your face eaters, and your Rangpendecs, and all of them, and all of those insane types out there. And the ones that were labeled the de-evolved force people's face eater types that were controlled by aliens and abduct people. And also you have your Yeti, which is actually a reptilian mammalian hybrid with a bunch of fur and feathery looking hair. It's a mix. It was genetically created, folks. Very much like some of your dogmen can reach out sometime and talk about how some of them were genetically messed with by people or humans in that respect. I use human lightly. The crews in this, the film crews are just doing their filming. They may even see something on camera and they're either discouraged from talking about it, very much like how you have your air traffic controllers or people in your military or whatnot. They're discouraged or they're ridiculed for seeing certain things. You'd be surprised in these shows that this actually continues. If it does not follow a certain narrative, they discourage people from talking about it. Just like in one of your shows, somebody said they saw orbs around with our people, and one of the people said, "Oh, we don't share that viewpoint. We're in the wood ape mentality," which I disagree. I personally disagree with. And somebody said, "Well, we don't. Oh, I don't. They don't speak for me," type of thing. And he's been seeing himself in that same scenario, wanting to help the person that saw the actual thing versus the yielder that was within the crowd, both the believer and the skeptic in that respect, including the third guy or the yielders. The fourth guy is not necessarily a yielder. In that respect, in the other show the how can I put it, drama that ensues with this is not necessarily always to our approval. Hence, hence he saw that young forest person who does not wish to speak at this time, um, being mad at these film crews because he wanted communication, not some kind of show being put on. This is the difference that is going on here. Now, what I will say to the awake, unawake seer versus skeptic, he is correct in his assessment that this is the people in their lanes. But there's also an academic program or academia programming going on at the moment where the paranormal groups and even the Sasquatch enthusiasts are trying to be academia pleasers, as he said. And this is a no-no because academia is ruled by the new Schwabenlander contingent. This is where I will leave that part of the conversation because he was told by a friend that it's because of Adolf Hitler that they took the paranormal and the Sasquatch side out of it, and they shun anybody who goes into this. The same routine. The shunning is basically people that are on target. The cabal and your Nazi regimes are shunning. Now, there is a case he wanted me to bring up, which I fully support. Years ago, this was back in your mid 2000s. There was an actual Sasquatch hunting group, I shouldn't say hunting, but enthusiast group that managed to actually, without a doubt, prove our kind to the world. One would normally think this was a moment of rejoicing. This is not. This was, and there was much rejoicing, yay, kind of situation, where this group thought that they were going to get extremely famous off of it, but they were also wanting to open up communications. They thought they were going to get like a Nobel Prize for proving Sasquatch. This is not what happened. Anybody in any paranormal field or Sasquatch group that manages to prove either one, their evidence is confiscated, like he said in the paranormal conversations. If you manage to actually prove something with the scientific method, without a shadow, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's either ripped off of wherever you posted it, or the group is either shunned, their materials confiscated, or they disappear, quote unquote. And you know what I mean. That would be killed or just paid off or what have you, and never sees the light of day again. Unfortunately, this was a mix of those two. It was a footage of one of our people sleeping in a field. And they're the young ones are always warned against again being out in the open, and this is what this was. Yeah, like adolescent, uh, no more than 20 years old. Which I was like that too at one point. I understand. This was a while ago, mind you, but I get it. But this particular group sat on a stage somewhere and said, "Yeah, we have absolute proof." Some skeptics ripped it apart because some of those skeptics were working with the bad guys, very much like your head of Skeptic magazine ripping apart alien abductees. Now, I'm not dumping on skeptics at all, because some of them have the higher ground and higher ground of protection because if they don't believe in something, they don't believe in its assault. You see, so unless there's certain ones that will debunk, fine. But then there's some people on the seer side saying, "How can you be retarded? Because this is this. Well, why don't you just believe it?" This is an ongoing chicken and the egg war that has gone on, and the bad guys always love it when this war goes on because it divides the community more than unites. And they're just in their lanes. If the two would work side by side, about one like instead of one being put to the background all the time by the skeptical groups, as he says, everything would work great. And this goes for both paranormal and Sasquatch Bigfoot enthusiasts. This other group, the reason you never heard from them again is because they were both paid off and threatened in the whole bit, because they actually managed to prove it. And now you've never seen this footage. You cannot find it anywhere. The same goes with someone else who proved a forest person up in the mountains. He was shunned by one of those Sasquatch shows, those Bigfoot shows, you see. So by the people, not just as skeptic or believer, but because that was a mouthpiece, that was a Kabbalistic mouthpiece, you see. Oh, to discredit something that was true. So I'll just go into questions if you like.
So I think it is interesting. What I'm curious about is, have you come to a consensus of what you feel their agenda to portray? I mean, it seems, and I may be wrong, so tell me what you think. My whole concern is they're going to try to group everybody into one as far as the forest people, Sasquatch forest people, in describing, to try and create biases already. But my question to you is, from you guys' perspective, seeing it much clearer as to what's going on than obviously we see, have you come to any determination of what you feel they're going to try and steer this into?
Yes, so as far as the yield goes, that this is the route they wish to go. Anybody that proves us beyond the shadow of a doubt, this includes your paranormal caught on video type scenarios as well. They're actually fishing for information to see who is actually getting stuff. They have catalogs. See, they have a huge glossary and catalog of all cryptids, all ghost types, all variations. Like you'd have a Ghostbuster group doing a underground like project, very much like you see in Frozen Empire. It's like that, where they're actually saying, "Oh, this is this type of energy. This is this type of energy. This is time being alien." All of this. So the goal is not only is it information fishing, when they ask for your evidence. That's a clue. Very much like when they're asking you to mail in your gold, like they used to do. This should be a clue that it is going to a project you probably would not want to fund. So, in this I'll fully dump on a little bit, but the end game with this is some of it's communication. Yes, there is benevolence there. Some of it is trying to find those that are openly communicating with us and attempting to silence them in some fashion. And the third option is lies, where there are lies being told about our people. I will see if I can give an example. Some of the, even though we have like quantum capabilities, you see us going into orbs and going into ships and all this other stuff, the little orbital ships, all this other things, and quantumly shifting with our voice. The generalizations that you hear, like about tree knocking. Sometimes we're knocking on our chest to communicate. Sometimes we're knocking on trees. Sometimes we're not picking up sticks and knocking on stuff or anything like that. Also, are we trying to communicate? Some of us trying to communicate through like the chirping noises and animal noises, and sometimes the yells, yes. But as Segron and them, his grandchildren said, so lovingly said, that sometimes that's an insult. That depends on the tribe. Now, the lie about us is that some of these people are trying to portray us as nasty. Where people have they run into some adolescent ones like the one he saw in the dream? Yes. That they were outright nasty? Yes. Where some of us trying to deter people from being near a colony? Yes. And they've gotten too far in. And one of the people that we spoke about with some of the footage, did some of our people assault him? Yes, because he passed a barrier, one of the X barriers, and also the broken tree branch barriers into our territory. And have some just been outright asses by pissing on people's tents and stuff? Yes. This is these as funny as some of these instances are. Just like one guy woke up or had a dream where one of us was sitting on him and laughing, and then he got a photo image of a blurred Sasquatch stealing an apple that he had put up high in a tree. Yeah, that stuff like that. It gave him some of his proof that he needed. He also made it so he was showing that it was hard for people to fake it. This was sanctioned by us though, because he went to Meldrum, which he's the scientist that actually is bothering to help prove some of our kind, but in the right way. And also, he's an incarnated one of us too. So he's in a Knock'em line. I think you can tell when you look him up. But it doesn't matter if he hears this. But the other person was, well, I will say this thing because this is actually benevolent. The Les Stroud Survivor Man, the Bigfoot edition, where he went up in the hills, and one of our people sat on it. That was true. that was a young one doing that, going, he can't do anything about it, And we're not above practical jokes. So just like anybody out, some of the elementals in the woods and whatnot. But the end game is to make us look bad by one bad gaslighted assault. There are groups out there that try to gaslight us and our young people, just like they try to do you and do your young people as well. Control the young people to bring them out in the open. So look how nasty they look, how terroristic that other side is. Look how evil they are. They're being triggered. Oh my God. Same BS with our people, trying to get us out in the open where either they can get shot or get assaulted or get made to look bad. Just like if you had a resistance fighter that was fighting some cabal, he even points this out, where he's fighting some cabal people dressed in cops uniforms, and they labeled that person a cop killer when in fact he was fighting some of the underground projects. He was a super soldier. In that respect, he was made to look like a terrorist. Not saying there aren't any, but you're seeing that in your news. The same is going on with our people. The end game is basically divide, conquer, and control, so people do not communicate with us, and they hate us that much that they don't want anybody but who they choose. Their yield champions, all of it, to communicate with us. They want only their people. You saw somebody on I will not name the network not too long ago, where he claimed he was the liaison to the Galactic Federation, and those communicating with those grays that were coming through the dimensional rift and making him feel like he was at oneness with everything. That bullcrap. Not that I'm saying that there isn't one, law of one, all that. I'm just saying that is a load of crap. There's evil there in that house. Let's just put it that way.
Well, thanks. And I do find it interesting because if I heard you correctly, you were saying that for a lot of these folks involved in some of these shows, and again, not said that it's all bad. We're not saying that.
It's a mix.
It's a mix. So, but then you have what you were saying is it sounded like you were saying a mix of people with a mix of agendas, a part of it. So I can't imagine that some of them must be quite frustrated. And have they all now realized, even the ones with a benevolent agenda, when they see some of the information being scoffed at or pushed aside, have they realized the bigger picture in this? Do you
No,
think?
not always. Like that group that were being scoffed at, that caught our people on video. They some of them realized the game that was being played, some did not. Most of that group did after a while, and they didn't want to be part of it. Unfortunately, they were discouraged from ever doing it again, and that is sad. But don't be discouraged. Continue to communicate, continue to build bridges, just like we're doing here. Just because you're bullied by those that, let's just say, those without honor have no house kind of thing. This is them. This is some of your military industrial complex, your Kabbalistic idiots and Uber Schwabenlander idiots. There's several factions fighting this, actually. To that group, if they hear this, we wish to further communication and have further communications. But at the same time, I know a couple of the members of that group do continue. They mind speak very much like you're doing, or telepathy or psionics. They were the ones in that group that said, "No, we will continue to do this." It was the other guys that got spooked, that were the skeptics of the group, or that weren't skeptical. Afterwards, they had it proven to them beyond a shadow of a doubt. They're now the basket cases. That is where we have our concern.
Right. And I get it because again, certain foundational belief systems for those folks,
Skeptic included, just like religious, yes.
right, are being completely broken down, but more not with the force people, but more with humans and humanity type of issues that really have them shaken up, I'm sure.
And even the most stern, like, oh, I won't be afraid of this, or I can handle this, they decode and encode that and translate that in their brain. They suddenly become a basket case and they don't understand why.
Right. Because it's a bigger deal. And it's interesting again that of course, the nasties on the humanities side would be provoking adolescents basically, because first of all, a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot or whatever you want to call forest people is what we use. Their adolescents are bigger than us anyway. So you have them picking on the ones who would be, let's just say, scary enough rather than even, you know what I mean, a fully grown adult because they're much bigger than us anyway. So it's all a sad scene. Um, I don't know what else there is to say on this because again, it's a touchy subject. There is compassion within it in one sense because you understand, those of humanity's genuine attempt to understand and to realize things are bigger than what we think. And again, and to discern who's a friend, who's a foe, and that it's a lot more than we, expect. Also, again, acknowledging the things that we've said before, but information that's out there is still in a controlled way. And you have to be discerning and pick through it as to what you feel, is um, the information that is helpful to you. And again, you always have to be aware, is somebody trying to have me create a bias in my head? You have to think about that these days with everything going on. So I just want to give any last thoughts on that. And then I wanted to change the subject.
Yes, people have their own personal biases. They're going to see a totally different world than another person, very much like you see your political theater puppets. There are two completely different countries existing in the same quantum reality. You can view it that way. The same goes with both skeptic and believer. The skeptic will not believe in any of it. They want the scientific proof. And yes, they will run in circles until they introduce the other portion. Just like your Tesla said, whereas if they would introduce energetics and frequency into their understanding, they would solve things that took them years within a year or even a few months. This is actually completely true. The paranormal field, even though evil walked in that house briefly, uh, with Adolf Hitler and the rest of them having the paranormal division, and his people hunted ours, by the way, and some of them still do. Again, hence the rivalry between the two sides to get, and so there's no communication between all sides. Divide, conquer, and control. Knowing full well it was the Draconian Empire and all of them that I say loosely empire. It's they're more of a ragtag team of those that smell of cat piss and sulfur. But anyway, I know some of them are listening in the distance, and I can make fun of them. So in this, I make them look ridiculous, as he did with the Nazis, calling the commander and the lieutenant Hans and Franz. We thought that was hilarious. This is what we do to them constantly. If you want to disable some of these organizations that seem to have a lot more power than you, they do not. Make fun of them the same way they were ridiculing and spreading ridiculed lies. Just make fun of them. Compare them, like what he did with Hans and Franz, or compare compare some kind of ridiculous notion to them. You will strip them of every bit of power they have if the people find them ridiculous. If they're fascist, make fun of them. If they're overbearing and authoritative, make fun of them. This is a very good tool. Laughter in this instance is a very good tool. Where it is not warranted is if you become like them and use the ridicule to go after your fellow man, regardless of the reason. Where you flip it back is that you mirror it back at them. Now, I know you wanted to switch subjects, but go right ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I think Chris wanted this to be brought in. So let's go ahead and talk about this interesting time of year we're coming upon with the energies. We've spoken about before how the energy dynamics change around equinoxes and different things, but especially this time of year, as we're approaching what people would say the Halloween time frame, is what people are mainly familiar, that thinning of the veil, the energies that happen. It's an interesting time of year because those aspects do happen. The one area, again, this isn't really a Halloween show, but the one area that we're beginning to notice is the increase of, let's just say, ghost activity. And I don't know any other way to put it, because I am curious from your perspective if you feel this is increased. And so I'm just going to use plain English to describe something, although it may not be the correct terms. So we've said before, and I think other people have said, and we've used the word dumbing, but I don't really know. It's the high psionic pressures on people, along with other things in the environment, including what you eat, including what, different things you take, but that have caused this. An interesting thing is, the question is, there's a higher quantity of ghosts around, but, from Chris's perspective, he feels they're more dumb than they've ever been as well. It's kind of weird.
You're not wrong.
It's an interesting aspect because, what in the world do you think about, the concern about the things that are being thrown at humans that are causing this decrease in being able to reason or whatever. But there seems to be something else going on in that energetics area as well. And then really would like to know, how is it affecting you guys? Are you guys seeing more ghosts?
Well, seeing also the fact that some of our people pass on and sometimes form ghosts, very much like your Patterson Gimlin incident, which I won't go into completely, but some of our people were killed during that incident. And yes, he saw some ghosts of our people and freed them, which those weren't the dumb kind. Those were just the injustice guy, to say. And he also compares it to the guy that drove off the pier, whereas he was the respectful ghost. Okay, I'll give you that. But like this morning, with he calls it the Sea of Ghosts. He called 2020 the Sea of Ghosts, which I fully understand why. We were seeing that as well with those in masks that were in your bedroom at 2:30 in the morning asking if they're dead. Now I see why this is seen as ridiculous because of the fact that you would think they would know they were dead. Now, do they? This has to do with layers of veils, you see. Can a ghost from, say, the 1700s see a ghost from the 1970s? See a ghost from now or from your 2020 incident? Yes and no. He even saw in Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, whereas a woman was looking for her baby, and her baby was less than a few inches away at all times. There was also separated a couple of lovers that in Forest Home Cemetery, that one was looking for her other lover. I believe her name was Rachel, and his name was Thomas or Tom. So he was looking for him, and they were mere feet away. Or like in his Skyrim video game, where the two ghosts that had died during a battle, one was still in the battle, or just before the day before, and the woman, the guy was in the battle or before it, and the woman had already experienced and knew the death from, and bringing them together. Your character brings the man over to the woman, the veil disappears and they move on. This is true, 100%. So, where this happens, where there's a delay. Now, in a tragic death, yeah, sometimes they forget and they wake up and they're dead. They wake up dead, pretty much, which is an oxymoron in of itself. But yes, this does happen. Now, in the case of empathic transference, could one see this as a form of assault on one's person? Okay, I can see that, especially if they're revving up their energy and they're frustrated that you're not dealing with whatever they are demanding you deal with. I see the frustration completely with that because a lot of times they're cognizant and they want your time to be their time and vice versa. Now, is that always the case? No. Sometimes they're innocent, and just like one of them in Nebraska, who he'd killed himself as a ghost, and he came to them to be moved on, and he thought he had been assaulted by being whacked in the head, and that was because of the bullet to the head. Can this harm a human physiology? Most certainly it can, if it lingers. This is what some of the sources of sickness and lower immunity are. In your cases, it was actually military industrial complex with their DEW weapons, their nano weapons, and ghosts. Now, in the case of today, where he found out his foot issues were partially that of empathic transference, we sympathize with this because there was already some damage that empathic transference leached onto. It was a similar wound. It was a war wound to knee and foot, like he has, from somebody from the Revolutionary War. There was also a Civil War person as well. There were two. Now, should one be angry at them? In some cases, yes. Not in all. Now, with the whole dummiting, we find that kind of funny, based on the happening where the trees were killing everybody and taking away their intelligence. That's very true in that way. We thought the joke was funny, but it's really psionic dampening. Can this happen to ghosts? Yes. And for what reason? Creating a meat grinder of ghosts down here. What purpose do you think that serves somewhere in the galaxy? The soul trade. So this is a wrong that is being committed against those consciousnesses. It is a wrong galactically, as Vessa was talking about in another recording somewhere. Being around the Lancaneer contingents and the caravan, they're caravan guards that guard soul arcs. There's these little cubes, and anybody that makes these cubes, like they put skulls in the center of them and have pyramids facing inward. That's what these devices are. These are if you make an orgone piece that does this exact thing, you're a monster, because in this respect, because you are capturing souls and forcing people to channel them. That and then these Lancaneer contingents come and pick these up. I'm not saying all tall whites are these. This is a specific sect of them. I'm not dumping on all the Nellis people and all the Verer and Lanulosians and no, we're not doing that. But They take them out in the galaxy. There's clients that buy these and they get paid off for their courier job. You interrupt that, and these Cannoneer factions get pissed. What do they do with all these dumb ghosts? They want them wandering. They got the new Schwabenlanders to turn the volume up so they could go around and start collecting them. This is why it's harder to move them on. This is why it's harder to get through them. This is why it's harder to get them to see words, spells, incantations, and neon signs attached to houses, floors, underground, and above and roof. These spells in the past worked completely. They're about maybe at 70% capacity now. Imagine if they weren't there. Now, they also get attracted to enriched environments too. Some are being directed towards you as like a bulwark where they're being thrown. And some of these tall white factions get pissed, and or even factions, grays, all of them, and other factions get pissed, and they think they want to play chicken with the train. In fact, in their gaslighting technique on himself, they are playing chicken with the train. We've watched this, and we are around, and they're playing chicken with us, and we don't like it. So making a big orgone piece, making an enriched environment, sometimes, I'm not saying 100% of the time, maybe 3, 4, 5% of the time, you'll get a cat nipper showing up to it, which is rare. Majority of it is bulwark, dumbing or psionic dampening, and unjust death. Now, the unjust death and lies what happened mostly during 2020, so it intersected that dampening. And also, there's also draconian factions that got deluged from all the human fear. There are all those your 5G and all that, and the COVID thing and all this other stuff, where it transmitted that fear across that network, a binary network, and you know the rest in that area. But the soul trap aspect, they go in, they take this cube and they collect them, or they try to channel into other people to create another device. It's this is the setup of the other one. Skulls or face likenesses inside, facing each other. Sphere. Pyramids. Gold pyramids facing inward. Box. Perfect cube. A machine could easily do this. These are a rudimentary version of a soul arc, very much like you have communication arcs that are rudimentary versions of what the Lanyalosians and other races use to communicate back. Like the Venusians have their implants they put in houses so they can have a walking hologram in the house so they can communicate with people and not be assaulted if people see them in there. Now, that's how they get around some of these yield aspects and some of these GF restrictions and such. But the capitalists try to get people to make a rudimentary version of that device, so all they have to do is go to one spot and gather them, you see. This also happens with this type of setup where they're thrown at one person. Who comes in and grabs them? Caravan guards. Who gets paid for all of those collecting? Very much like your capture, like you see those ones on the ocean getting crabs and salmon and not salmon, but tuna, fishermen and all of them in the ocean. It's the same premise. They wanted to maximize efficiency and maximize capitalistic gain. So what do? You try to automate the process and get somebody to self-farm the process. I'm not saying you guys are doing it. You guys, your devices are wonderful. It's the other people that build these other things. Not wonderful at all.
Well, it's hard, I have to say, for those who are experienced this deluge of now more confused, let's say ghosts, where maybe you could work with them before. It could feel, I would think that it could feel like such a bombardment, such an assault, let's say.
Also Annette drove them here too. Think of like a corralling.
So that,
cattle
and
drive.
then, you know, I think, again, for those channelers, again, if I heard you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the most frustrating aspects of this is that there's a good chance that it's already known out there who you are and your capabilities, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring them towards you.
Yes.
When you feel assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
you may get to the point where you've been gaslit so much that you don't give a crap whether someone else takes them. And I think because
Yes,
that's
yes.
part of it as well, where that,
Trying to automate the process, and he's seen this in his own head where he would automate a process and then fall right into it.
well, that's what I'm trying to say, that it's a, it's pretty evil, again, to take people and make them part of a process that they would never want to be a part of a process of.
This is the thing he's seeing. This is the thing he's being taught about by his own oversoul. You see, it is you can blame his oversoul for this one because this was part of the process learning about this aspect of French words
So,
or the unsolvable Rubik's cube.
okay, and then I have two things. One thing I wanted to say is, are they coming into your frequency more?
Unfortunately, yes, because talk about the whole bulwark concept. Who would they want to try to piss off as well? Us. So with this, some of these Lancaneer contingents are aiming to have their spines ripped out at this point because we can't wage war. Some of the Viking-like groups can't do this, or the Asgardian types can't as well. Like some of them in the Moldaland village specifically, and parts of Europe, in Norway and such. These groups, even and some of these tall white groups like Lancaneer, tried to gaslight them into beating the crap out of. This is why Stavbjorn and Bjorgen, when he ran across them, what ended up happening was the Ebens were trying to gaslight the Viking groups into assaulting them into an all-out conflict. This would unfortunately disilluge any treaties that were in place, and some of those groups would have to be removed whether they live here or not. And then there wins the that particular Lancaneer contingent, and they would be laughing. In this respect, they're trying to do the same to us. We don't buy into it, but we're pissed at them. This is also like the young person he saw again in that dream, wanting to assault the camera crew. Give me a moment. It's the same thing. We have tried to teach them about what the term gaslighting means in human vernacular. They want you to do it. They want you to get so mad at the assault that you're willing to do anything to get rid of it. Again, what does this sound like? Your political theater.
Right.
What is going on now? It is so bad that you would do anything to get rid of it. They need mass consent for some of these things to happen. And the minimum requirement is, he likes to say, for the Galactic Federation entry, they want people to find this cool. They want people to actually give mass consent. They needed mass consent for the COVID thing and the vaccine thing. They needed it. But they did, unfortunately, get some of that. That was a testing ground for the next couple stages. I cannot say completely what this is, other than the fact is, do not give in to gaslighting. Do not give in to your puppet theater, no matter what side. And I will say this: what looks preferable, what looks demonic, isn't always what it seems.
Right. They're both halves of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I certainly get how everybody's feeling. So for those that are out there that are experiencing this more and getting more and more frustrated about it, although part of them won't talk about maybe their frustration about it because they don't want to come across as being a human with no heart.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. It is actually happening. So we want to acknowledge that this is actually happening. The question then becomes, again, out of true kindness and compassion for a soul, that we've always said, unlike others, that it isn't kind and compassionate to keep them in this world. They do need to move on, and trying to tell you that there really is a soul trade that's trying to harvest them. Hopefully you'll understand this is for real, and if you have the ability to move someone on, even if they're hesitant to do so, do it in understanding that there is so much confusion going on, that just like with another human, you may say, I'm going to do this anyway, and you can thank me later, let's just say. But the question becomes, have you guys seen any sort of construct, any sort of way that can help funnel these souls to the other side? I mean, I think that's the one question. We certainly don't want to create anything that's going to trap and make soul traders' lives easier, but we certainly, if we could, like to be able to help with make some type of conduit portal or whatever to help people get through without harassing a human.
Yeah, so they are trying, these capitalistic buttheads are trying to do anything to make their life more efficient, more profitable. Think Ferengi in your Star Trek construct. What is their drive? Profit. The word Ferengi means even bad trader or dark trader in your Hebrew. So that's why Roddenberry picked it. He was making a statement. Big ears, they're all ears, but they're butt heads, you see, and they butt heads with people. So dog eat dog world was their symbol. In this, the way you make this more efficient to not become that. He even saw in his own head where he in his mind was creating these egg-shaped traps that would fly like your soul crystals and Elder Scrolls. Like he had brought back that element from there, and he was actually unfortunately being manipulated to see what these traps were like. But his oversoul allowed this so that he could see what this looked like. And what this was a form of self-harming. He kept seeing these flashes of light in this scenario, whereas a ghost would get trapped and then he'd see it like a strobe. And that's what some of these would look like if a human would make the technological version. He also compared it to homeless people, like someone caring for one and marking a property, like what happened to his great grandmother and grandfather and great grandfather. So he warned, saying no, they would continuously show up. Or he compares it to the South Park episode where Stan gives a $20 bill to one, and they call it Night of the Living Homeless. For the next day, there's 1,000 of them asking for change. That's He compares it to that, which okay, I can understand the reasoning. I can understand the frustration. We share it. But the way you resolve this, it is not an unsolvable Rubik's Cube. No pun intended to the actual soul trapping cube devices that are out there. I cannot stress this enough. If you're building one of these, you're a monster, because this is what this does. This is primarily exactly what this is for, no matter what the rudimentary version of it is. Shielding devices from do weapon and AI, like what you do. Beautiful. Push, not suck in. Now Amber will transmute. That's different. Not sucking anything or trapping anything. But also some people make crystal traps to focus them being sent on. Beautiful. You can actually do this if you have a focal crystal that can actually be changed with how can I put it? With different star alignments and everything. You can, and astrological and earth alignments and energetic alignments and ley line alignments. You can actually make a device called a portal drive where you can actually shove them to the other side. They get sucked in and they're automatically the spirit. This is possible, but there's a double edge to that sword where you would draw more in. So now's not the time to build something like that because it's not advanced enough. But you could viably make a rudimentary version of one of those. But the soul traders might try to take advantage of that too. At this point in history, it's not completely advisable. But the way you resolve this is not seeing it, for one, not seeing it as unresolvable. Two, you actually, it goes back to one, you're denied the known manifests differently. What is the nature of a ghost? Is it separate from oversoul? Is the oversoul aware or unaware that it is doing this? And the answer is both, because the oversoul encompasses a multitude of different universes, realities, expressions, and all of those. Timelines collapsing, invading, you know the routine. The way it's like with the benevolent Earth Mother, when you ask for an audit where you want codes and deleted and audited where appropriate, you're asking the Earth to or scratch an itch that the Earth might not completely recognize as an itch at the time. And then when you do, it clears it or makes it available to be cleared easier. In this instance, how you do this isn't just by a normal audit. You can do that, but where you're basically saying true benevolent source creator, true benevolent earth mother, and the true benevolent versus please audit and code audit this site and certain grid areas as of this moment in time, whereas codes are audited and deleted where appropriate, made across time states where appropriate is forever so in all moments, all sessions and expressions. Now, with this, to say you run into a conundrum where you can't actually do this and you're being assaulted by the different ghosts or they're showing up in the middle of the night, what have you. And taking care of one sometimes again will draw in more, and he's not totally wrong when he says this. Not really. Showing compassion, yes, of course. And I'm not saying set up a trap, but set up a grid, a potent grid by which then they showed this in your Ghostbusters Afterlife where Egon had set up a grid of traps. Okay, they're trying to make traps look cool in Ghostbusters. Okay, but setting up a crystal grid and keep telling that grid and commanding it and we'll say programming it to expel ghosts so they cannot walk onto the land, not suck them in, cannot walk onto the land. You have a grid so far. You have to always keep reinforcing that grid. Yes, you can do automated everything like what he was doing this morning and making. We found this slightly slapstick humorous, where he was bitch slapping all the ghosts in a mass automated. We thought that was hilarious. It's like in your Hogwarts Legacy, where there's two types of magical people. There's the scribs or the squibs, and there's the regular magical kind. The squibs want to do hard work by themselves and don't want to give that up. The other magical people automate things like pickaxe, like mining or shoveling or doing basic farm work. They set an automated spell, or like people trimming hedges and stuff like that. It's an automated thing, and that's true, absolutely true. Or as his mother did to two people you ran across when they betrayed you, she basically pulled the sheet off of them and went, it was an automated repeat spell that was in place. We laugh our asses off when we see some of these repeater spells because it's a repeater like basically rerunning a slapstick bit and go, like what you guys would do. Would find something funny like a comedic stand-up or something. We found that funny. But turn that automated spell into the grid auditing itself. If you do crystal grids, you have to clean, scrub, and automate. Automate. Use that automated thing to keep out ghosts. This is what our recommendation is for that.
Okay, well, thank you. And hopefully others hearing this, if they're having these same issues, or can pass this information on, of course, to others that are having this issue now. And but it is interesting to me that again, more and more we find out what we think is only affecting the living on Earth right now. Things are really affecting things on a way bigger level than we ever thought, and people need to become aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this will add. Well, this has been a really nice talk. Any last words that you want to say before we leave today?
And as Segron said on that show you were on previously with Audrey Walters, with the sigils, you of course they don't require an automation, but having them in place in that automated process, based on what he said as well, with the symbol, the way they work, beautiful. So we don't have anything further unless you do.
No, I think this has been great, and I hope everyone's gotten some interesting information from it.
Yes. Know that this dumbing that's taking place is on a mass scale, both ghost and human, and ET alike. Usually those with bigger ears and a butt crack for a head, but I'll just nickname them Fringy for the moment. Capitalistic little toads, let's say. Which that's why Roddenberry put the word in there, labeling that type of capitalism. Ferengi, bad trade. That's Hebrew, as I said before. So, but it doesn't mean capitalism's bad. You don't want your society slipping into socialism and communism either. We saw that. Yeah, it has to be in check. That's all we'll say on this. And keep watch on this very heavily, folks, especially in the coming years. We're not saying bad, coming. We're just saying co-create differently or deny the known, manifest differently. So thank you. Blessings to all. So yeah, that was interesting. I do have a crystal grid in place that we have some, and I still have some more in a bucket. I'm saving those for when we buy house, but you can't find in bulk too well anymore. But if you live in an area where quartz is in abundance and nature has given you the permission to take those, use those that already are charged with nature energy, and you can use them to create a crystal grid. We also use chrome nails, which they're named after Chrome, the Titan. I have railroad spikes where they're made with shungite beeswax, amber, frankincense, and myrrh, and pine pitch. But that's not the only thing there. I refine ours through a jar of plasma shungite energy, silver energy water, and let it sit like amber, and remelt it, and then refine it with the wax. This is, I suppose, if you want to try that on your own, try to go for it. But we have a special technique behind our own, and it's not easy to do. You might think it is, but it's not. So we coat the butt end of the nail and the tip, and we put those as a crystal grid too. Those are absolutely wonderful pieces, and I'll put those back up for sale for too long. So when I make more. So thank you everybody for watching this. I don't know if you have anything else to add,
No, just
so,
hope everybody enjoyed it.
So I now hereby close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you everybody. Bye bye now.